As the Trump administration boosts its immigration enforcement, the Department of Justice is issuing a directive now aimed at naturalized citizens who commit certain crimes.
I mean, I look at Omar, I don't know, I never met her. I hear the way she talks about Al-Qaeda. Al-Qaeda has killed many Americans. She said you can hold your chest out. You can, when I think of America, when I think of Al-Qaeda, I can hold my chest out. When she talked about the World Trade Center being knocked down, some people, you remember the famous some people. These are people that, in my opinion, hate our country. Now, you can say what you want, but get a list of all of the statements they've made. And all I'm saying that if they're not happy here, they can leave. They can leave, and you know what? I'm sure that there'll be many people that won't miss them. But they have to love our country. They're Congress people, and I never used any names. But these are people, quiet. These are people that if they don't like it here, they can leave. And I don't know who's going to miss them, but I guess some people will. One of them is polling at 8%. One of them is polling at 8%. So when I hear people speaking about how wonderful Al-Qaeda is, when I hear people talking about some people with the World Trade Center, some people, no, not some people, much more than some people. When I hear the statements that they've made, and in one case you have somebody that comes from Somalia, which is a failed government, a failed state, who left Somalia, who ultimately came here, and now is a congresswoman who's never happy, says horrible things about Israel, hates Jews. It's very simple.
I think really what this means is the Department of Justice is prioritizing potentially stripping naturalized citizens of their citizenship in a way that we haven't seen in the past, and is doing so potentially on a much broader scale. Oftentimes it's based on lying to say that you were eligible to be a citizen at all, or committing some sort of fraud prior to becoming a naturalized citizen. There's more crimes that are listed that would qualify for stripping people of their citizenship.
And so when we think about it now in Congress, we're having a conversation about cross-border negotiations happening for workers, because all of our destinies are tied together. When you see a Somali refugee or an Iraqi refugee or a Libyan refugee, we often are like, oh, this is my neighbor, they must have survived some struggle. We don't ever pause to think, what American policy made them come over here? Right? When you see a flooding happening in a country abroad, and you are urgently raising money for these lives to be saved, you don't think about how have I contributed to the climate warming that has led to these floodings and these catastrophes that are taking place abroad. And so when we are now thinking about a new way of reimagining a vision of what our foreign policy should be.
Ilhan says in the speech, quote, "Many have called me asking, Ilhan, what will the U.S. do in response to this situation, meaning the situation in Somalia?" Ilhan Omar replies and says, quote, "The U.S. government will act according to our requests." You cannot have a government to continue to operate as a superpower if it's infiltrated by foreign powers. We're told that diversity is our strength. You have to bring in all these people. The left loves this. Here is cut 47 of Ilhan Omar continuing. On radio, I'll translate for it after. On television, you'll be able to see the subtitles. Play cut 47.
madaxweyne xasan shiikhna waxaan leeyahay waan kugu faraxsannahay shaqada fiican aad qabatay in dadka dadka Soomaaliya iyo dadka meel kasta ku nool aad dareensiisay si kasta anaga aan u dhibanahay Soomaali hadii aan nahay waxaan nahay dad karti leh dad wadankooda aqoonsan dad wadankoodii aan wiligood
translation that is going viral. So we've been using the more conservative translation because we want to be very, very fair. Even the most conservative translation, she is talking about a higher loyalty than the United States, a higher priority than the United States, talking about Somalia. What is the story of Ilhan Omar? Ilhan Omar was in a Kenyan refugee camp because Somalia is not a stable country. Somalia is not a model country. Somalia is a mess. Remember Black Hawk Down? Somali pirates? Somalia is not a model for any country. Now remember, Ilhan Omar's father worked in the government of a Somali dictator. So Ilhan Omar is in a Kenyan refugee camp. And we have big hearts as Americans, don't we? We're very generous and charitable people. We are the most generous and philanthropic and open-minded individuals on the planet. And as same thing that's happening on the southern border, our generosity, our charity is used against us. We bring Ilhan Omar into our country alongside hundreds of thousands of other Somalians. Remember, invade the world, invite the world. And Ilhan Omar had some very suspicious activity with her brother and marital certificates. We're not going to get too deep into that, but it's awfully suspicious. And remember, it's the same congressman who went viral a couple years ago when describing the 9/11 attack by saying it's just some people who did something. She comes to America, gets educated in our schools, educated in our university system, ascends to Congress to then relentlessly insult our country. She talks about racism and homophobia and misogyny, every left-wing anti-American talking point of somebody we invited into our country. And instead of assimilating, instead of learning, first of all, our customs, our practices. Yes, she does speak English, but she's not speaking English in this particular speech. Instead of saying, wow, I'm a guest in America and I'm going to become a citizen, maybe I should learn something. Maybe there's a reason why Somalia is in a rather crappy position and America is a great country. Why is that? Why is Somalia a third world hellhole and America is a pretty nice country? And by the way, Somalia is objectively a mess. That's not a racist thing. That's not a bigoted thing. Somalia literally has been torn apart in soft civil war for multiple decades. Don't take my word for it. Look at any objectively analysis. Somalia is one of the most dysfunctional places on planet Earth. And yet Ilhan Omar, she wants to make America more like Somalia. She should be counting her blessings that she's here. She is a perfect embodiment of the ingratitude of now the third world foreigner left-wing insurgency within the United States Congress. Ilhan Omar could say, boy, I'm just blown away that I get to live in this country. Maybe I should learn something. No, instead, she comes in full speed, talking about dual loyalty. Let's be perfectly clear. Ilhan Omar never should have been allowed to serve in the U.S. Congress. She speaks like a sleeper cell. People need to learn what a sleeper cell is. She should be denaturalized and she should be deported back to where she came from.
A profound argument that has stuck with me is the idea that people are conservative about what they love most. So, for example, those who either come from good families or who were able to build a good family through their own marriage tend to be quite zealous and wanting to protect the institution, while those with supposed mommy or daddy issues are a lot more liberal, wanting to tear down what they feel personally slighted over. Now, use that framework to analyze what Congresswoman Ilhan Omar was saying at an event over the weekend at a hotel in Minneapolis. This is a woman who is happy to see U.S. sovereignty undermined at the southern border and viciously spurns those who don't want to see the culture their ancestors ancestors created destroyed. But when it comes to Somalia, she is the fiercest, nativist blood and soil type you'll ever find. She glories in the idea of a people with the same blood running through their veins. She talks about being Somali first and Muslim second, leaving us to wonder if she even sees herself as being truly American, since I didn't hear it make her list. The only time she references America is to explain how the Somali diaspora she leads can use its electoral heft here in the U.S. to make Uncle Sam do their bidding back in their home country without any care for American national interests. Omar also uses the mantra Somalia is for Somalis only, a mantra that many in Kenya, Ethiopia, Somaliland, Djibouti, and elsewhere take umbrage at because a sizable minority of the population of Somalia isn't Somali, but come from these other places as well as from further abroad, and so some see it tinged with genocidal rhetoric. Again, if you used any of these arguments but in favor of, say, American culture and history and interests, Ilhan Omar would be the first to denounce you as a nasty racist of the highest order. And yet look at her now. It shows that she is conservative about Somalia because she still has great love for the nation, where she sees the U.S. as being nothing more than an economic zone to be used for her real purposes regardless of what happens to us. It's funny that Omar has been online defending herself, saying that her words were not properly translated, and that she didn't offer in those posts, as far as I saw, her real translation. All she said is that her comments reflect official U.S. policy in Somalia, and that's that. But isn't that exactly what she was saying in the speech? That she helps to control that official U.S. policy? And if she really wants to argue that she was not faithfully translated in this clip, then all she has to do is to speak at another event with the same Somali crowd, waving the new proposed state flag design that looks like a Somalian one, and extol her love for the U.S. instead, and explain how Somalia is nostalgic for her, but is no longer her country, nor is it her top priority in Congress, and see how well that would go over. So yeah, I think the main gist of that speech was pretty accurately translated, even if she has squabbles with the exact phraseology that was used. But again, if we want to further compare Omar's blood and soil speech, Ora McIntyre of The Blaze asks, what would you call a civilization-wide attempt to get a specific race to accept violence against themselves? Because not only does Omar want the border wide open and Americans to be at the mercy of whoever waltzes across, but her party also thinks white people shouldn't be allowed to report crimes being committed against them if the perp is non-white or is trans or whatever. That is now being brought to life in the form of media pressure.
That's all for today. Thank you. If you want global news to keep you up to date on any new developments, please subscribe our channel and forward our content with your friends on social media and email. Thank you very much for keep supporting me. Stay safe, be blessed. Namaste.
Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.